Friends, I want to dedicate today's Torah learning to two very special things. One of them, a beautiful life transition moment, professional transition moment for our dear friend and leader, the outgoing Chief Financial Officer of UJA, Irv Rosenthal, who has stewarded our community's resources now for 22 years and has given of his heart in such a way that when he spoke at last night's board meeting, he gave a beautiful Dvar Torah, a beautiful analysis of this Parsha, talking about deception, self-deception, and deception of the other, and what it is to be true to self and principles. I want to dedicate this Torah learning in his honor for all of the service that he has given and for the mensch that he is. I also want to dedicate today's Torah learning in honor of a panel participants that I was speaking with publicly last night. We had an event hosted by Central Synagogue, convened by the JCRC of New York with support from UJA, to talk about gun violence prevention in New York, specifically a Jewish responsibility for communal welfare, which of course is the core of who we are as a Jewish community. This has been an important part of my rabbinic work, but I don't enter it as an expert. I enter it with heart. And so last night, Mayor Adams of New York, Mayor Adams Gunzar, who's A.T. Mitchell, who is a tremendously important leader in this work, formerly incarcerated community organizer with incredible heart and skill, was on this panel, as was Natasha Christopher, who created a group called Moms for Safe Cities because of her own need for healing after her 14-year-old son, Akia, was murdered by a gun years ago. And Andrew Edelman, who is one of the lead researchers for Everytown for Gun Safety. This panel was a very, very important conversation, and I'm reeling from it. I want to offer this Torah in honor of Irv and his leadership, and in honor of my teachers last night and their ongoing work and praying for their healing. This week's Parsha, VAYEITZEI, is so much about healing. Jacob runs for his life at the very beginning of the Parsha and crashes headlong into a place. And in that place, Vayifgama Makom, as it says, he just happened there, or he crashed into it, as we discussed earlier this week. And he dreams, he just collapses to sleep. The Midrash even says that because he was so exhausted, God caused nighttime to come early so that he could just stop and rest. Of course, these are messages we need to hear on their own terms. Sometimes you're just so tired you need to stop. Replenishing dreams should come your way in those moments, blessing all of us with that. And in that moment where we sleep, where we dream, who knows what's swirling in our consciousness? Who knows what messages the divine might send to comfort and guide? The Talmud is full of interpretations of dreams, which you might be surprised to know. But the Talmud believes that dreams are actually messages one way or another. They aren't happenstance. They aren't prophecies, but they're messages to think about. When Jacob dreams, he sees the angels going up and down a ladder. And God is standing right by his side at the base of the ladder, which should be surprising too. Instead of God being far away and above, God is standing right by Jacob. And the Midrash says, to protect Jacob. He's so vulnerable. And in life, that is also a circumstance that we face, and often, more often than we'd like to acknowledge. And not only from ravages of gun violence, but also from the wear and tear of life. So for God, in the eyes of the Midrash, to stand by us and remind us to pause and rest and to send messages for us to grow from is so, so precious. I want to look at one specific part of the Parsha and offer us a blessing for Shabbat. When Jacob wakes from this dream, from this sleep, the text says, and this is verse 16 of chapter 28, Vayikatz Yaakov mishnato, Jacob awoke, startled in a certain sense, from his sleep, Vayomer, and said, Achein, yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, ve'anochi lo yadati. Achein is another way of saying, wow. What Abraham Joshua Heschel, whose 50th yahrzeit is this month, called radical amazement. Wow. Yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh. There is God in this place. Va'anochi lo yadati. And I didn't know. I want us to let in that sentence before I share any interpretations. Achein yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh. Va'anochi lo yadati. Wow, God is here. And I just didn't know. How holy it is to say those words. How holy it is to read those words. How holy it is to hear those words, maybe even to let them in. God is in this place, and even Jacob didn't know. How amazing. Now the rabbis look at this and they say, well, what does it mean? What would Jacob have done differently if he knew that God was there? And there's a funny interpretation, which is you're not supposed to sleep in shul, which, by the way, I'm a rabbi. I know sometimes I've spoken too long and people have broken that rule and it's been my fault. But you're not supposed to sleep in shul. So some of them derive, well, if he had known God was there, he wouldn't have slept. Okay. But you know what? If you actually read the text with a compassionate, loving, and maybe a little bit humorous heart, God knew that Jacob really needed to sleep. So of course you can sleep where God is, because Ein atar panui mineh. There's no place where God isn't. Anywhere I would go to sleep, God is there watching. God is there protecting me. God's there loving me. And you. Anywhere you close your eyes, God's right there. And anywhere you open your eyes and say, wow, God is there. But there's another way of looking at this sentence. Remember, when Jacob ran for his life, Vayifga b'makom, he crashed into a makom. And makom isn't even the name of a place, it just means place. For some of us it means God, crashed into God. But let's just use a simpler meaning. Crashed into a makom. And then when he wakes up from the dream, he says, Yesh Adonai b'makom. As that God was in this place. The fact that the place does not have a name, it's a nameless space, means really, friends, it could be any place. It could be any makom. You and I right now are sharing a metaphysical makom, a digital place. And for many, many mornings, Penny has the exact count. I think she said 683 this morning. You and I have created a makom right here. And in the early days of the pandemic, I think we crashed into it. We didn't really know what to expect. And every once in a while, there was an achein moment. Achein yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. Wow, God is here, and I just couldn't have known that. What would I have done differently? Maybe nothing. Maybe the gift of this Parsha, the gift of you, friends, the gift of community, is a chance for us to understand truly, truly, that you and I have created something holy in a place that has no name. This has no name. This is just love. This is beyond names. I want to bless you to have a Shabbat where you rest your head and where good dreams visit you, where you wake up replenished. And when you wake up, to look at the world and say, wow, wow. Then to wonder, not what would I do differently if I knew God was here? Let's say, I know God is here. What should I do now? Not differently, but more fully, with a fuller, more whole heart. You and I have so much strength and power to bring this world. In order to bring it effectively, we need to rest. Even God rests. So too should we, friends. In any makom you find yourself, any place you find yourself, especially this one, So thank you for every day being part of this beautiful, growing community. Thank you for knowing that sometimes closing your eyes is a way of communing with the divine, and that you are one of the people you are called to care for in the world. Let's get ready for Shabbos. Sing a song. Bless you, friends. Can't wait to see you on Monday. Shabbat Shalom.